Like in 2026, gaming has become a luxury item. And what I mean is, if you look at buying like a digital only PS5 or a digital only Xbox Series X, they retail in Canada for around $700. And when you really break that down, looking at what these consoles retailed for when they first came out versus now, they were already considered expensive items, but now they're almost seeming unaffordable. And if you even look on the PC front, PC parts have become astronomical. Devices like the Steam bot or Steam machine are retailing in Canada for around $1,500 for the base model version. And when you really look at the dollars and cents of things, the average person in many cases can't really afford these devices. And this is where I start to really look at how do people who have older devices really consider upgrading in 2026 when these are the price tags they're faced with. And that's where devices like the Xbox Series S come in. And in my opinion, even with some of the price increases, this is probably still one of the best value buys in gaming, especially in the climate of 2026. And in this video, I'm going to go over why I still think this console has a lot of life left and why it's still a great value buy for gamers who are trying to break through into the next generation in 2026. So let's take a look. The first thing I will address about the Series S is probably one of its negatives, and that's that the Series S lacks the ability to play any sort of physical game. But if we consider what the industry's been looking like over the past little while, digital gaming is becoming more and more prevalent. And my understanding, and this is just based off of basic research into this, the average gamer is about 50% likely to buy either physical versus digital. So that is a consideration. And if you're someone who absolutely is a physical diehard and is going to continue on that route until it becomes not a thing anymore in the near future, then the Series S is likely not going to be for you. However, if you're someone like me who plays a good balance of both or generally buys a lot of games digitally nowadays, the Series S is, in my opinion, a really good purchase. And it's an even better purchase when you consider the digital-only format paired with Game Pass. Now, I know Game Pass has become a bit controversial, and there was a bit of a roller coaster with it becoming very expensive, and then they lowered the price again. I get that too. But I will say that for me, I'm a person who capitalizes on Game Pass. I'm always playing new games on Game Pass. I'm constantly getting first day releases on Game Pass. I also share my account with my son's Xbox, so we kind of share or play different games on Game Pass together. So I'm someone who definitely gets his value out of playing on Game Pass. And when you pair that with a digital-only device like the Xbox Series S, and you consider the fact that you have access to a gargantuan library with Game Pass, granted you're willing to pay for that subscription, you have a pretty robust console already. Now, there is a caveat here. The Series S wasn't really positioned as the flagship high-end Xbox of this generation, and that's something that's definitely worth considering. However, you also have to consider that a large proportion of gamers still typically game on 1080p displays. And if that's the type of gamer that you are, the Series S is most well designed for that type of display. I only can really tell the difference between my Series S or my son's Series S and my Xbox Series X when I am on a 4K display, but even then, with some of the upscaling, it looks still quite good. And I still have a hard time being able to really discern between the Series S and the Series X on most games, the difference in graphics, because there is a bit of a horsepower difference between the two devices. So you do have some assets pared back on certain games, but general games like a Call of Duty, for example, I can't tell the difference. I can barely tell the difference at all. Other than the resolution, they both look and run very good on both devices. And this is kind of, in my opinion, one of the bigger themes of this gaming generation. The graphics didn't take this gargantuan leap like we saw between the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One, or even greater, the Xbox 360 to the original Xbox. We're not seeing this sort of massive graphical leap. The Xbox One and the PS4, in my opinion, still actually hold their own in a lot of ways. And the Series S and even the PS5 and Series X are kind of just a marginal improvement. So the reason that's a good thing is, in this generation of gaming, it's not like you're going to really see this massive leap or massive difference even when you're looking at the Series S versus the Series X or a PS5. And what that means is, in terms of the near future or even the next couple of years, the Series S is generally going to hold its own and still look quite good. And that's a good thing if you're looking at getting a good, reasonably priced gaming console in 2026. Now, further to that, I do want to also highlight that the Series S, one of the downsides is that its memory isn't great if you're buying the base model, which, if you're watching this video, that's probably what you're considering. And I do want to highlight that will be a bit of a headache, especially if you are someone who's into Call of Duty and there's it's like a 260 gigabyte download, which for the base model Series S is the 512 version. So you're pretty much going to eat up the bulk of your hard drive space. You do have, though, the ability to upgrade using an expansion card. They're not necessarily cheap. However, I do see them secondhand pop up for around like 80 bucks Canadian sometimes. I did purchase one way back when it was on sale for my son's Series S, so he didn't have to lose all of the space off of his Xbox or the actual internal space. But really, other than it not having a disk drive or the ability to ever have a disk drive and the space on the base model, it's a well-rounded device, and it runs well at 1080p, and the games look very good. And the price point, even if you want to buy it brand new, is still considered quite reasonable when you compare what else is out in the market. In Canada, you can get a 512 version for $440 or so Canadian, which, in my opinion, is well, very reasonable when you compare it to what the Series X and the PS5 cost versus what you're really losing. And what that is the ability to play in true 4K, which even nowadays isn't really true 4K. Most of it's upscaled, but you lose out on a couple things in that regard, but they're not that major. And so if you're someone who 4K doesn't really mean a whole lot to you, then the Series S is even more appealing, in my opinion. And further to that, a lot of times you can find a used Series S on the Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji for around 300 bucks or even as low as 200 bucks I see in some cases used. Which, when you break it down like that, in my opinion, you're not going to get a gaming PC equivalent for even remotely as close. So in a lot of ways, I still believe the Xbox Series S is right now, especially in the current economic climate, one of the best value buys that you can have in gaming.